A soldier crouches in a trench, rain pouring from a black sky. He pulls a small metal case from his pocket, flicks the lid, and with a sharp click, a flame leaps alive. Against wind, against water, the fire holds steady. In that moment, the Zippo lighter becomes more than a tool. It becomes a lifeline. Born in the 1930s Pennsylvania, the Zippo was built for one promise: it would work anywhere. Farmers used it in storms, workers in factories, sailors on restless seas. Its flame could be trusted, even when nothing else could. And its sound, that crisp metallic snap, was unmistakable, a noise that carried across camps, bars, and battlefields. The lighter's brilliance was not only in its flame but in its reliability. It was durable, refillable, and guaranteed for life. A man could carry one for decades. The same lighter passed through war, peace, and memory. The Zippo was never just about fire. It was about survival, ritual, and identity. From the mud of battlefields to the neon glow of city streets, it burned as America's iconic flame. And its story begins with a restless inventor who refused to accept failure. The Zippo's story begins not in the mud of war, but in the small town of Bradford, Pennsylvania. In the early 1930s, a local businessman named George G. Blaisdell watched a friend struggle with a clumsy Austrian lighter. The design worked, but it was bulky, awkward, and required two hands. Blaisdell saw possibility where others saw inconvenience. He set out to create something different, something simple, durable, and elegant. Working with sheets of brass and a boxy case, he built a lighter that could be operated with just one hand. A hinged lid protected the flame, while a perforated metal chimney kept it alive in the wind. The flint wheels sparked reliably, and the cotton-packed interior held fluid long enough to last days. In 1933, Blaisdell completed the first Zippo lighter. Its name, inspired by the word zipper, carried the sleek, modern sound of speed and progress. He priced it at $1.95 and offered an unheard-of promise: if it broke, it would be repaired for free, forever. That lifetime guarantee became the backbone of Zippo's reputation. Sales began slowly, but the lighter's quality was undeniable. Outdoorsmen, factory workers, and townsfolk alike came to trust it. Each lighter became more than metal and fuel. It became a companion, ready at a flick of the thumb. The Zippo was not born in a factory of giants, but in a modest workshop with one man's vision: to create a flame that would never fail. What made the Zippo extraordinary was not luxury, but design. Every part of the lighter served a purpose, built for durability and ease. At first glance, it was nothing more than a small brass case with a hinged lid. But inside lay an arrangement that transformed it into something iconic. The flint wheels sparked reliably, striking against a steel flint to create instant ignition. The cotton-filled chamber absorbed lighter fluid, releasing it slowly so the flame endured for hours. Above it, a perforated chimney shielded the fire against wind, keeping it alive where matches failed. The hinge snapped open and shut with precision, producing a sharp metallic click that became the Zippo's unmistakable signature. That sound, as recognizable as the flame itself, announced reliability before the fire was even lit. Unlike disposable lighters that would come decades later, the Zippo was designed to last. Every part could be replaced: flint, wick, cotton, even the hinge. And if repairs failed, the company's promise stood: every Zippo would be fixed, free, for life. This mix of rugged function and elegant simplicity made the lighter something rare. A personal object people trusted, even cherished. Soldiers, workers, and wanderers alike carried it not just as a flame, but as a companion. In the engineering of the Zippo, we see America's industrial genius distilled into metal and fire, an invention that worked every time, and in working, became unforgettable. When World War II erupted, the Zippo lighter left the small town of Bradford and marched with America's soldiers into every corner of the globe. Factories at home shifted production entirely to support the war effort. Every Zippo made between 1942 and 1945 went straight into the hands of soldiers, sailors, and airmen. Its flame lit not only cigarettes, but also stoves, lanterns, and even the fuses of explosives. In muddy trenches, on the decks of warships, and inside the cockpits of bombers, the Zippo became an unofficial piece of gear. It was dependable where matches turned soggy and useless. Soldiers engraved their lighters with names, unit numbers, mottos, and even sketches, transforming each one into a personal diary of steel. These engravings turned Zippos into talismans of memory and luck. A single flame in the darkness of war became a reminder of home, a moment of calm, a gesture of brotherhood as one soldier lit another's cigarette. The simple click and glow of a Zippo became part of the soundtrack of war, carrying echoes far beyond the battlefield. By the war's end, the Zippo was more than an invention. It was a companion that had survived mud, rain, and fire with the soldiers themselves. It symbolized resilience, loyalty, and the stubborn endurance of both flame and fighter. And as veterans returned home, they carried not only their medals but also their Zippos, still burning, still ready, still theirs. When the war ended, soldiers returned home with more than memories. In their pockets, alongside medals and keepsakes, many carried their Zippo lighters. These small companions of the battlefield now entered peacetime America, bringing with them the reputation of toughness, loyalty, and dependability. In the booming 1950s, Zippo became more than a soldier's tool. It became a cultural accessory. The rise of cigarette smoking made lighters a daily necessity, and the Zippo stood apart with its iconic look and sound. Hollywood seized on it. Actors snapped Zippos open on screen, the metallic click and steady flame becoming cinematic shorthand for cool confidence and drama. From smoky jazz clubs to neon-lit diners, the lighter became a symbol of style. Advertising pushed it further. Companies printed their logos on Zippos, turning them into promotional gifts that people actually valued and kept. Sports teams, oil companies, and even airlines ordered them by the thousands. A Zippo was practical, but it also carried identity. It could be engraved, personalized, and displayed proudly. Through veterans, movies, and marketing, the Zippo crossed from utility into icon. It became part of the soundscape and imagery of post-war America, a flame flickering through culture as well as daily life. The lighter's popularity proved it was no passing fad. It was a trusted object, a cultural marker, and a piece of American identity in metal and fire. And as America's culture shifted, the Zippo would shift with it, lighting not just cigarettes, but entire movements. By the 1960s, the Zippo lighter had already become a household name. But in the decades that followed, it evolved into something larger, a cultural symbol that lit more than fire. It lit identity. At rock concerts, the Zippo became a ritual. Fans raised lighters high, flames swaying with the music. That simple gesture turned concerts into shared ceremonies, binding strangers in a wave of flickering light. It was a signal of belonging, of unity, and of devotion to the moment. The Zippo wave would become one of the most enduring images of rock culture. For others, the lighter carried different meanings. In Vietnam, soldiers once again engraved their Zippos with raw expressions of fear, hope, or defiance. These small steel diaries recorded their thoughts when words were too heavy to speak. Back home, in America's counterculture, the Zippo became an emblem of rebellion. Punks pierced jackets with them, bikers carried them, and activists lit candles of protest with their steady flames. The Zippo's appeal lay in its duality. It was both practical and symbolic. It could light a cigarette, or it could light a movement. It could be a token of defiance or a sign of unity. In every case, its flame carried meaning far beyond fire. By the end of the century, the Zippo had burned its way into music, protest, memory, and myth. It was no longer just a lighter. It was a language spoken in sparks and flame. As decades passed, the Zippo lighter transformed once again, from daily companion to cultural collectible. While its design remained virtually unchanged, its surfaces became canvases for creativity. Factories in Bradford began producing special editions, commemorative engravings, colorful enamel finishes, and limited-run designs that celebrated everything from sports teams to national events. For veterans, engraved Zippos from their service became treasured heirlooms, passed down from father to son. For collectors, each new release was a piece of Americana, blending art with function. Cases painted with flags, logos, or even movie scenes turned a practical tool into a symbol of history, pride, and identity. The appeal was in its endurance. Unlike disposable lighters, a Zippo was built to last forever. Even the most battered, dented, or scratched Zippo could still be sent back to the factory to be repaired free of charge. Collectors prized not just the pristine lighters, but also those scarred with stories, each scratch a reminder of where it had been. By the late 20th century, Zippo lighter clubs formed around the world, bringing together enthusiasts to share, trade, and preserve their collections. What started as George Blaisdell's practical invention now stood as a global icon, carried in pockets but also displayed in glass cases like works of art. The Zippo's endurance was never just mechanical. It endured in memory, in symbolism, and in the loyalty of those who refused to let its flame die. A lighter became a legacy. Nearly a century has passed since George Blaisdell shaped the first Zippo in his Bradford workshop, yet its design remains unchanged. The same brass case, the same flint wheel, the same unmistakable click. In a world obsessed with constant innovation, the Zippo stands as proof that some ideas are timeless. Its flame has burned in every corner of American life. It lit cigarettes in foxholes and on factory floors. It flickered in the hands of rock fans, activists, bikers, and dreamers. It carried logos of companies, symbols of patriotism, and engravings of personal stories. The Zippo is more than a lighter. It is a mirror of America itself, rugged, adaptable, and enduring. Collectors still trade them, veterans still treasure them, and new generations still flip them open just to hear that satisfying snap. Each Zippo carries not only fuel, but memory, of war and peace, rebellion and ritual, daily necessity and cultural myth. Its legacy is not only in the flame it produces, but in the connections it sparks between people and across time. The Zippo has become an heirloom of fire, a pocket-sized testament to resilience. Its guarantee, it works or we fix it free, is more than a promise of repair. It is a philosophy of durability in a disposable age. And so, we end with a question. In the future, which of today's everyday tools will last a century and still hold meaning? Or will the Zippo remain one of the rare flames that never dies?